From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on leadership myths. I wanted to do an episode on these leadership myths because I know that they are perceptions or misperceptions that I had about leadership at one point. And I thought, I know that these are sometimes they're common beliefs, and there are probably other people that have one or more of these misperceptions or misconceptions about leadership. So I wanted to do an episode and just kind of break these down and help share the awareness that leadership has to be incredibly difficult. So here we go. Top 5 leadership myths. Number 1, leadership is not the title or the position that you have. And this was a big one for me. I can think back years and years and years ago when I first aspired to be what I thought was a leader. And I thought, well, I'll go to school and I'll get a management degree, and then I'll get a job as a manager and I'll be a leader. And, I know that there are a lot of people who have that belief because that's kind of what we teach in our culture, is that leadership is for the boss or the CEO or the manager and the supervisor. Now, those people absolutely need leadership, but leadership isn't the title or the position that we hold. I love, you've heard me say it before, I love John Maxwell's definition that leadership, he says, is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And then when you stop to think about that, sure, there are so many people that didn't have a management title or a leadership position that have influenced the world in incredible ways. Some of my favorite examples: Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King Jr. I was reading a book about him just this morning. And, these are people that didn't have the title of CEO or supervisor, and yet they have had incredible influence all over the world and will continue to do so for years to come. So, number 1, leadership myth debunk. Leadership is not about the title or position. We have that concept that leadership is the title. It's not. It's not the title. It's not the position. Leadership is influence. Number 2, leadership is not management. And, early in my career, I thought leadership was about having the title or position. And a little bit later on, I thought that leadership was about management. It's not. And there's a difference. We manage things and processes, and we should. Managing things and processes is a skill and a strength. And it was something that I have a strength in. And so I tried to bring that strength of managing things and processes to my approach as a leader. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I simply a lack of awareness on my part, but management is about things and processes. Leadership is influencing people. We just talked about Maxwell's quote that leadership is influence. So I wanted to share with you a quote from James Autry. I'm reading his book, The Servant Leader, and I wanted to share a quote with you from his book. He says, "Not every manager can become a leader, but every leader must possess and demonstrate good management knowledge and skills." So think about that. Not every manager can become a leader. Managers are good at managing things and processes. I love to organize things and processes. It just excites me when everything is organized and runs smoothly and flows well, and everything from, managing the groceries and never running out of soap or shaving cream to managing things in a business and making sure supplies are there. Those things just come naturally to me, and they're a strength. But what I didn't realize is that you couldn't really apply those same concepts to managing things to leading people. People come with thoughts and feelings and opinions and emotions, and you can't just turn people's thoughts and feelings and emotions off. People come with the whole person, and so you don't get to choose just part of the person. You have to kind of get the whole package. But that's definitely a leadership myth, is that leadership is about management. Those are two completely different skill sets. Both are valuable. Let me just say that. Both are incredibly valuable and incredibly important, but they are not the same. It's interesting, though, how many of us think leadership is about management. It's not. Management is a skill, certainly, and it's an important one. But as leaders, we need management skills, but we also need to be able to influence people. Number 3, leadership cannot be learned. I mean, especially a lot of women who think or have the concept that leadership is something you cannot learn. You're either born with it, or you have it, or you don't. And that's just simply not true. I'm one of those people who at some point I thought, I'm not a natural leader. But as I look back, I've always had the ability to be able to influence in some way the people around me. And we all do. We all have some influence. Now, I wasn't perhaps as skilled at it early on because I didn't understand it. But thinking that it's not something we can learn, you either have it or you don't, like your eye color, it's simply not true. Leadership is influence, and we can all learn the skills and tools that we need to get more effective at influence. I love to use the analogy when Mac and I are speaking that leadership is the language of influencing people. And just like if you move to another country without studying and learning the language, you'll pick up a few things here and there just by living there. But if you intentionally learn the language, you'll be much more effective at communicating. And leadership is simply the language of influence. And it's very powerful when we understand we all have the potential to be more effective at learning it. Number 4, and this is a big one. I think a lot of us, once we begin to study and learn leadership, we have the concept in our head, even subconsciously probably, that leadership starts with others, right? If leadership is the language of influencing people, let's learn leadership so we can influence other people. But that's a myth. See, leadership doesn't start with other people. Leadership and influence starts with influencing ourselves first. The number one most difficult person in the world to influence is the one sitting in your chair or your car seat driving down the road right now. Number one most difficult person to lead. We all know of things that we should have done or things that we want to do that we just haven't done them for whatever reason. You know how hard it is to influence ourselves to drink 8 glasses of water and exercise 3 times a week, right? But leadership doesn't start with others. Leadership and influence starts with ourselves. The choices that we make each and every day are determining the influence that we have with other people. The choices that we make physically, emotionally, in our personal growth, the choices that we make socially at home or at work. And sometimes they're little choices or choices we don't mean to make. Choices like losing your temper or getting angry in a situation, or being reactive and blowing up at somebody. Those choices determine your influence with other people. You pretty much never increase your influence with positive-minded people when you lose your temper and get angry. You never do it. You never do it. So the trick is to be able to, and it's not a trick, but the challenge is to be able to lead and influence ourselves to make the right choices and decisions as we go through life. And that enables us to be more effective at influencing others. And number 5, last but not least, I think one of the biggest myths that people have about leadership is that leaders never follow, right? We have that concept of leaders always charging forward and leading the way and always having the right answers and making all the decisions. And that's simply not true. Effective leaders are also effective followers, because good leaders, great leaders, understand the power and the synergy of 1 + 1 = 4 or 8, right? Leaders know, number one, that they don't have all the answers. And number two, they know that the strength of a team is being able to leverage the assets and the benefit of having more than one perspective, more than one set of strengths, more than one set of skills. So leaders are often held up on a pedestal as always being right and having the answers and making all the decisions. But great leaders are often the best followers, because they understand there's a time to step back and let somebody else lead the way. Maybe leaders, it really comes down to self-awareness and knowing what our strengths are as a leader, and knowing there's a time to step back and let someone else's strengths shine. And when we can do that, it requires some self-confidence and humility on the leader's part. But you'll never find a great leader who is arrogant, because to be a great leader, you have to have that certain level of humility and willingness to step back in the shadow and let someone else lead the way. The best leaders make the best followers at times. So there we go. My top 5 leadership myths I wanted to share with you and just kind of debunk those once and for all, because leadership is incredibly simple. Leadership is influence. We don't have to make it complex or complicated. It can be simple to understand, not always easy to do, because it does require us to make the choices. But every single one of us can learn to be more effective at influence. And, that's where I just get excited about helping people understand that this stuff it's not incredibly vague or theoretical. It really is simple to understand. And that means we all have the capability to earn more influence. And, life gets better when we have more influence, because when we have more influence, we have more options, we have more opportunities. And every single one of us have the power to do that. And that's what I think that I wish I could help everyone on this planet understand. It is incredibly simple. It comes down to the decisions and the choices that we make each and every day. Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.